Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Thursday morning, broadcasting live. We're at the Cherry Farm over here, Cross County, Arkansas, right outside of Memphis, where we bounce back and forth about every day of the week. We've got a great lineup. Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, will join us. Two-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year, now sports director there in Baton Rouge. A lot to talk about, man. I think one of the underrated stories that's going below the radar, kind of like a storm out in the middle of nowhere that's going to have big effects. Tommy Moffitt, LSU's strength coach on their last three national championship teams, is apparently gone to Texas A&M. That's a shock. But, I mean, who knows what they paid him. Your strength and conditioning coach is as critical as who the chef is in the kitchen at a great restaurant. Without him, you're serving, TV dinners. You're in trouble. We'll talk with Jacques about that. Second segment, David Schultz, Sultan of the Sunbelt, checks in from over in Lafayette, and the GOAT. We'll talk with him. He covers a lot for us. Second hour, we got the ADs, ULM AD John Hartwell, Coach Matt Dean from Rhodes College in Memphis. A lot of stuff to cover because apparently, and I'm going to bring Jacques in here, yesterday afternoon, some people were telling me that a judge has issued a temporary restraining order that says that, okay, right now in the portal, you can transfer your first time and you're eligible immediately. The second time, unless you're graduated, you got to sit for a year. Now there's a 14-day rule saying you can transfer as many times as you want, which is this is going to end up like musical chairs. Somebody's going to end up without a chair. But what are you hearing about this? And first off, thank you for taking time to join us this morning, as always.
Yeah, Rob, good to be with you. In terms of locally here and covering LSU, they have a guard on the men's basketball team by the name of Jalen Cook, who was with LSU. He transferred to Tulane. Now he transferred back to LSU, and he hasn't played in a game this year. And they've been waiting on him, and it looks like with the news you just referenced, he'll be able to play for LSU against Texas this weekend in Houston. Texas, a top 20 team, and I watched the LSU play last night at home against Alabama State, and they need all the help they can get. Trust me. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know Kim Mulkey had Alexis Morris on her team who played for, Baylor, Rutgers, Texas A&M, LSU. So she played for four schools. So it was kind of funny to hear that this rule was coming into play about stopping these second transfers when it had been rolling along.
Well, I mean, you can't do it in the business world, and you sign contracts. And so, are they going to become employees? Hell, I don't know. Do we want to have collective bargaining agreements? Probably not. But there's got to be some accountability here, because if you're a coach, how are you going to put a roster together and plan ahead for your upcoming season?
Yeah, the whole college athletic landscape, I know that there's a saying, you've got to change to move forward, but there's been so much change in so little time, and we're not ready for it. And I think it's really changing sports for the worse, not the better. It's really changed the college football and the college sports that we all grew up on. Now, things change. I know that, but I don't know, man. I think we're creating some monsters out there.
Yeah, and I think the free market will fix it. And I brought this up and want to cover some topics with you, but we talked about it Tuesday morning. Dave Tompkins and I did. I think you're going to start seeing he got his MBA at Stanford. He's a West Point grad and an Alabama fanatic, but knows that Stanford pretty well. They're having a problem out there with their big boosters. They're sick and tired of these morons that are running the university. The athletic department is in the ditch. Remember, they used to annually win or be second or third for the Sears Cup for the best athletic program. LSU is the same thing. LSU's athletic program, I mean, look at track and field and all. It's one of the best in the country. But I think we're going to start seeing, this is just my prediction because of the business I'm in outside of this show, I think we're going to start seeing private venture capital coming in and trying to raise money for sports not named football, and even football in some cases. Do you see where that could happen? Because the universities can't keep going to the States asking like A&M for $76 million to make a coach not coach.
Man, I need to have another sip of coffee here. I wasn't ready for all this morning. I thought you were just going to ask me about Jayden Daniels winning the Heisman and stuff that.
We're going to in a second.
Well, in LSU's case, I think in some instances in NIL, they are way ahead. And in other cases, they're way behind. I mean, I hear that the checks that are getting cut at Texas A&M and the money being offered and stuff in different places and just trying to buy guys. And there's a saying too, when you buy somebody, they own you, not the other way around. And so, and then they're yours for how long? Till December the 4th? I don't like it here. See ya.
Yeah.
And then, wait a second, you didn't fulfill your obligation here. You were supposed to be here for such an amount of years. And yeah, I don't really know how to answer your question. I just know that you hear about who's in the transfer portal and recruiting and what they want. And it's not so much about, hey, I dreamed of going and running out of the tunnel in Tiger Stadium and playing a night game in Death Valley or playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium or Bryant-Denny. It's, hey, line my pockets.
Yeah, and then there's the kids the ones that are really going to get something way bigger than NIL are the ones that say, I dreamed since I was a kid growing up in, you name it, Lake Charles, DeRidder, Alexandria, dreaming of running through the tunnel at Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night when, in just 30 minutes, the sun will set in the western sky. You know the drill. I mean, it's even for non-LSU people. And I was a month away from being an LSU guy because my dad, a month before school started, decided to go to Auburn instead of LSU. But that is a powerful ass brand. And 870 WWL as a kid, and I still listen to it all. Glenn Gilbaugh, John Ferguson, Hawthorne. Jim Hawthorne for 34 years, and John Ferguson before him. That's the kid that comes and says what you just mentioned. NIL will come and go, and that money will be spent, and you're going to have friends and relatives coming out of the woodwork to take it from you. But that NIL that you get with your degree from whatever school, it lasts a lifetime. All right, let's talk about that second Heisman in the last 5 years. Which quarterback is better, in your opinion? All things considered, Burrow or Jayden Daniels?
Theodore Roosevelt said that the comparison is the thief of joy, Rob. Shame. Jack Marucci with LSU Sports Performance, he said that between year 1 and year 2 at LSU, Joe Burrow was like this, and Jayden Daniels was like this. Like he was on a rocket ship was the way that he described his improvement between year 1 and year 2 at LSU. Now, Jayden Daniels had been a 4-year or a 3-year starter, I should say, at Arizona State. So he had played a lot of football before he came here. Joe Burrow had not played much football at all at Ohio State. I think the difference is that I remember I was in New York City when Joe won, and then all the talk was, LSU was still undefeated. All Joe wanted to do was get back to Baton Rouge and get ready for the college football playoff against Oklahoma. In this case, unfortunately, Jayden's playing on a team with 3 losses, who's in the Rely Quest Bowl against Wisconsin, and we're not sure if he's going to play another down yet or not. Jayden is the most electric runner in LSU history. No quarterback has ever run like Jayden Daniels. Joe Burrow could run a bit, and certainly at the end of that Alabama game in 2019 in Tuscaloosa, Joe made some big runs for LSU to seal that victory. Jayden throws the ball deep down the field. It's almost hilarious a year ago to say that he couldn't throw the ball down the field. He didn't have a deep pass, and this year he threw it down the field a lot and put it right on the money. So, I think they're both amazing. I just think, and it's no fault of Jayden. Joe just got a chance to play in bigger games, more pressure-packed situations, and came through in those spots. And so, Joe, I just think has his legacy is a little above Jayden's just because of the team success.
Yeah, because I remember in 2018, Burrow was like 54.6%, and he goes to 78.6 the next year. That's unbelievable. I've never seen that happen. Bo Nix was close to that this year at Oregon.
Yeah, I think in 2018, Joe Burrow's first year at LSU, he had thrown 6 touchdown passes through 9 games. If you remember, Tua and Alabama came to Tiger Stadium, CBS primetime game, and shut out LSU 29-0. And Burrow looked very ordinary. And then late in the year, he started to get a little bit better. And then in 2019, everything just blew wide open.
Yeah, and it just that kind of but Jaden Daniels, I've never seen a quarterback who can run like that, not and throw like that. And one of our guests on the show, I think it was last week, Scott Rabelais was on from The Advocate, and you know Scott, and he made a point about no one had ever. Trevor Maddich on ESPN played at BYU on that 1984 national championship team with Lavelle Edwards. That beat Michigan 17-10 in the Holiday Bowl. What a tough one that was. A 6-5 Michigan team. But I digress. But anyway, he said that we've never seen a quarterback who can throw and run and throw and do all that stuff like that. He's freakishly good and seems like a good person that you'd want to be around. They showed his parents at the Heisman Trophy announcement. You went to New York. Yeah. How cool was that? Did y'all have a bunch of LSU people up there? Everybody's got fans in New York, but I bet a lot of I know when Cam won it in 2010, there were thousands of Auburn people doing a Tiger walk in down in Manhattan. It was crazy. That place is nuts anyway.
Well, Friday in Times Square, there's a Raising Cane's location there. Of course, Todd Graves, the Raising Cane's founder, his first location is down there at the North Gates of LSU. So that's another kind of dream come true. I think he's got over 800 locations. So he had 3 of the 4 finalists there. I think Marvin Harrison, these guys got paid a nice little chunk of change to go to Raising Cane's for an hour, from what I understand. Marvin Harrison was not there. I think he won a little bit more money, and I think he had an NIL deal with Chipotle, from what I heard. So 3 of the 4 finalists were there. Bo Nix was there, and they worked, Rob, for a while. They stood behind the counter and they gave out chicken fingers and this and that. But outside there was a group of fans, and I don't know, 5-10 of them were shouting LSU, LSU, go Tigers. We're wearing purple and gold. And so they found out where this event was and were cheering on Jaden. So, yeah, no matter where you go, it feels like. I mean, you go to the North Pole and you feel like you'd see an LSU fan down there. So very passionate.
Well, you got the great chicken finger war. Bo, of course, growing up in Alabama, Guthrie's chicken fingers. And that's how Guthrie started it all, with the sauce. And so the story goes like this. The people that worked there went off on their own and tried to replicate the sauce, started Zaxby's, and then went and started Raising Cane. That's, the legend just gets bigger with time. But my wife thinks Raising Cane is the best chicken tender she's ever had in her life. They really, in fact, that's what they serve at the Pavilion, the basketball arena at Ole Miss. And again, we're blessed to have quite a few guys in our hunting club from Lake Charles and DeRidder. I mean, I've never seen anything like the way you all cook. Did you grow up? You are so lucky. You have no idea. When did you make your first turducken? Before you got your driver's license?
Man, I ain't much of a cook. That's probably why I'm sitting in this house by myself right now at the Cat. But I tell you what, I have enjoyed some great food down here for sure. The reason I exercise is so I can eat, my mom makes a crawfish etouffee, and you talk about the butter gets poured in that sucker. And my dad, he can cook. My dad's not impressed with anything. We can go out to the nicest restaurant in the world and eat and be like, "So, Dad, what'd you think? Wasn't that good?" And I was like, "Well, he can cook. He can walk it and talk it. If he didn't know how to cook and nothing impressed him, then." But I mean, he'd do a chili, gumbo, jambalaya, whatever you ask him to do. So down here, man, it's some great stuff.
Yeah, the great thing about Thursdays is over in Wynn, right next to us in Parkin, Thursdays from 10 in the morning till about 6 at night, CJ's Cajun Express giant food truck comes over from Searcy, and I love the chapalaya. That is a big boat of crawfish etouffee with 3 pieces of fish on top of it. Ooh. And then we get a couple of pounds of the shrimp with the corn and the sausage. I mean, You can't get better. And then that beef tongue we had with the mock chew gravy a few weeks ago. You can't talk about LSU without talking about the food. But I thought Jaden Daniels' speech at the Heisman was really good. He seems like, and Scott said last week that they put the camera on him at a basketball game. He was at a women's game, and he was kind of shy, kind of like, it's not about me. That's very refreshing to hear. And then the guys going there and, working for an hour, hard labor. I'm sure that was a tough thing to do, but it's still the Heisman's a really cool event. You're in that room at the Downtown Athletic Club. And did you get to talk to any of the other previous Heisman winners when you were there?
Well, we didn't get to be in the room with the ceremony. So we're at a hotel and there's a media room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they bring all four of the finalists before, who we can talk to them all, like twice. They did it Friday, they did it Saturday. And then after it was over, they bring Jaden and Brian Kelly to the room, and there's the trophy and he poses with it and stuff like that. But I think 4 years ago when I went for Burrow, I was able to run across some different guys there. I mean, I've seen Steve Spurrier in different settings over the years. Andre Ware. It was kind of gave you a taste of how much time has passed, seeing Ricky Williams look a little older with his beard and stuff like that. 1998's already been 25 years ago with him. And so Billy Cannon was around here, and I got to know him a bit before he passed away several years back. So it's pretty awesome.
It really is. And I think Billy Cannon's story is just story of America, man. Guy on top of the world, he falls, he comes back, and he does good. Maybe the most memorable kick return in the history of college football that was a punt return right there with kick six. I mean, honestly, they both are. That night my dad at 95 can tell you what he was wearing and eating at that time in 19. Everybody does. That's how big that play was. Got to ask you this.
Yeah. Gets a long kick away down to Billy Cannon. He takes it in. You hear that call.
Yeah.
Holmeets was the guy's last name, who lived here locally. He passed away probably a decade ago.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing too, just real quick, it's the fact that back then, today everything is captured. Everything is captured on phones, video, blah, blah, blah. Back then, only a very small amount of things were captured, and it was captured and replayed over and over again. It makes it iconic too.
Well, when you look at a lot of the old films, like the stuff about Archie Manning, you look at these old films, they'll go, look at that boy go. Wow. That looks like that was done in a studio after the game. All right, idiot savant trivia time here, Jacques. This will get you a steamer pack of crystals and a 30 rack of Ham's beer. Can you tell me the only bowl game in history where both head coaches got sick and were in the hospital a day or two before the game, and two assistant coaches coached the game, who those teams were and what the bowl game was and what the score was?
No. I will not be an idiot savant here because I do not know any of that.
I was just thinking about that was the 1970 Gator Bowl when Johnny Vaught had a heart attack, was hospitalized, and Bruiser Kennard coached. I always think of Bruiser Kennard as one of those prison guards in the original movie, The Longest Yard, with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And Auburn head coach Shug Jordan had an emergency appendectomy in Jacksonville, had to go to the hospital, and Paul Davis, the defensive coordinator coach, and Auburn beat Ole Miss when Archie Manning had his arm in a cast in one of the really good games, 35-28. Larry Willingham for Auburn was, I think, maybe defensive MVP in that game, Ken Burnage, but hell of a game in 1970. But I want to ask you now about Tommy Moffitt. Pierre T. Landash, my man from Baton Rouge, lives in Memphis, said nobody's really talking about it. You know better than anybody. You might be working out with him when he was there. Tommy Moffitt, LSU's strength coach for the last 3 national championships, is going apparently to Texas A&M. Is that a done deal?
Yeah,
that's big.
Texas A&M, their Twitter, they announced it and everything. Okay. They got him wearing maroon and welcome our strength and conditioning coach. So we visited. I mean, I've talked to Tommy obviously a lot over the years. We interviewed him before the LSU-Alabama game this year, went to his house and sat down with him because, he knows Nick Saban better than anybody. When Nick Saban became the head coach at LSU in 2000, Tommy Moffitt was one of his first hires
Okay.
At LSU, the strength and conditioning program. These guys are fat and out of shape and slow, and we need to change that. And, Tommy Moffitt was at LSU for over 2 decades, and he was part of 3 national championship teams and then a 4th team that played for a national title and got beat by Nick Saban in Alabama in 2011. But when Brian Kelly came in and the change was made from Ed Ogeron to Brian Kelly, Coach Kelly did not bring him back. And so Tommy Moffitt has been, I guess, unemployed for a couple of years. And I'll tell you this is another thing that I feel very confident in telling you. After LSU's magical dream team in 2019, Nick Saban had an opening on the strength and conditioning staff. The guy that went to Georgia, Cochran.
Scott Cochran
had gone. And Nick Saban offered Tommy Moffitt that job. And Moffitt declined. And stayed loyal to LSU. Can you imagine coming off the dream team and everything? Hey, I'm going to Alabama. He didn't do that. And so what did he get for being loyal? Well, he's unemployed. So, I mean, he's not old. I guess he's in his 60s, maybe early 60s or something like that. And so now, he's going to be wearing maroon and white going to Texas A&M. So that's going to be a bit strange to see him over there.
Yeah, just getting a bunch of text from people in, Birmingham, Fort Lauderdale. Larry Willingham was the safety in that game in the 70 Sugar Bowl. We got listeners and viewers all over the place. And, hey, we got Jacques Doucet on with us right now, WAFB, Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, the sports director now, and that's a big deal.
That just makes you do your job better. When the viewers know just as much as you can't kick anything past the goalie. They know it.
Yeah. Well, I remember – my first night is January 3rd, 1989. I guess Friday night, WRBL Channel 3, News 3 on your side on 13th Street in Columbus, Georgia. First night as a reporter, I get there. They send me out on a story. They said, Rob, your photographer is out. He's got the flu. You're going to have to figure this out. So I had to do it all by myself. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, though, because I had to figure it out. Nobody held my hand. And my record for writing, editing, and laying down the tracks for a story was 22 minutes and 9 seconds. The lead story on the 6 o'clock news. You know why? Because that's the only amount of time I had. And you know what? You can figure things out. You know about live TV. Jacques, what you're doing is so different because I appreciate it. And I love the local, drill down on the local TV and radio and the newspaper guys. You did a documentary on Cecil Collins, and a lot of people, I'm not going to say that, a boatload of people texting me going, man, that thing is awesome. Talk about how that's been received down there in Louisiana. And, Cecil Collins, we all know what happened. I mean, people make mistakes in life, and you have your whole life to redeem yourself. How's he doing?
Well, the documentary has been very, very well received. It was over 3 years in the making. We started working on it when COVID first hit in March of 2020 and finally got to the finish line with it October 15th of this year. Cecil Collins lives in the outside of Houston. He's married with a son, CJ, who I believe is 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. And, he's come to grips with I think he came to grips with a long time ago. He spent 13 years in prison for things that happened in Miami when he was with the Dolphins. Yeah. But we decided to do it because after all these years, he only played basically 3.5 games with LSU. And if you're an LSU fan who's 35 years old or up, you know who Cecil Collins is. So it's up on YouTube now. If you didn't see it, it's I think we got 90,000 views on it, which is pretty strong.
Wow.
And we've got, we've got some other, we got so much raw video that we can maybe go back and add some extras to it. But we've got a lot of great response from it. And we were very appreciative that Cecil let us into his home and opened up he was an open book to us.
Yeah. Well, I think, what's really important about this, it says something about it. Most people are defaulting now to say ESPN, they hadn't done a 30 for 30 on it. It's not worth doing. And I applaud the hell out of you for going and doing that because that is a boatload of work. I've got someone that they're doing a documentary on her 98-year-old mother. It's a friend of mine who's still duck hunting. And they're bringing a film crew in next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday over to Weiner, Arkansas, the wiener. It's a great. It's the rice capital of northern Arkansas. But man, there's so much involved with it. The camera crews and the writers, producers, the boom mic, and then you're doing it out, in the flooded timber. You're going to have it. It's so. Thank you, and we need more people. Instead of just waiting for the feed to come, going out and making the stories. You are different than what we see in most cases. Most people have just, again, given up. Oh, if ESPN hadn't done it or Fox hadn't done it, we need more local people like you. So I hope they are taking.
Well, in this case right here, Darren DeQuano, the videographer who shot all the interviews and edited the whole thing. I had told him, if we don't do this, somebody else is going to do it. One day there's going to be something done on Cecil, and there may still be, and they may be, have a ton of resources and elevate it to a new place. I think we did a great job with just two people doing the best we can. We had the archive footage of
two people did all that.
Pretty much. I mean,
wow.
It was me and Darren for the most part did most of it. We got some help at the station with some things, little, icing on the cake type things. But for the most part, I mean, and the guys who shot the video of Cecil back in 1997 and all that. I mean, we didn't do that. But as far as putting it all together, it's kind of two guys' vision.
Yeah. So, I think it's fantastic. So, Rob Anderson, what will we do with me, I guess, fixing free market and Elon Musk fixing free speech? Hell, I'll let you answer that. Jacques, look, the free market, I'm just saying fans are only going to pay so much for NIL and stuff like that before it corrects itself. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, and I'll say this, Rob. So I think it was, when you're sitting in Tiger Stadium, right, and you've watched the team, LSU team, and their defense this year is shoddy, and it's not a bad product. They won 9 games and lost 3, okay, and they got a chance. But then when you've paid what you've paid for your tickets, and you paid what you paid to park, and you paid, if I want a beer and it's $10-12 for a 12-ounce beer, and then they put an announcement up, LSU fans, donate to the collective to keep us competitive in the NIL. It's like, dude, how much you going to hold me up for? How much money do you want from me? Seriously. Yep. And so I think there comes to a point where you try and get blood out of a turnip, and fans are like, I've already invested a lot of money. Give me a better product. Stop asking me for more money.
Yeah. Well, in the investment business, when your clients, and I've been doing it 32 years, bring you money, there's got to be an ROI, return on investment. You buy $1 million block of bonds at 5%, you're getting, federal and state tax-free $50,000 a year. Okay. Because every wealthy person has one radio station that is preset in their car, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And then what are the tax implications? Okay. Write-offs, deductions, and all. Is this a 501c3? So far, I guess, again, I'm not an accountant, but I defer all my tax questions to the able-bodied accountant, the county clerk of Mayberry, Howard Sprague, on that one. But you got to say to yourself, so far, we still don't know everything, but you're right. How many times can they hit you up for priority seating, season tickets, and then what if you got your own kids and they need money? Are you giving more money to the NIL than you are to your own children? That's the question.
Well, as my late uncle Blocker Thornton said, it's total conditional love between fans and the team. What have you done for me? What are you doing for me? And a guy blows out his knee. Oh, that's too bad. Sorry about that. Next guy puts on his jersey. I'm cheering for him. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, it is. And you think about it. Jackie Sherrill, about 5 weeks ago on the show, I asked him, I said, do you think A&M will pull that trigger this year? And he said, $85 a barrel oil. Yeah. He goes, they will. Now oil's down below $70 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude. That's what we get around here. They get Brent C crude on the East Coast. It's about $5 higher. Watch out, Dabo. Let's just, I don't know. Now they're not going to do anything to him, but that's a great point. All right, look, I know we've run out of time. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. You bring so much every time you're on here because you're out there on the beat. Let people know how they can cover you, and again, where they can find the documentary on Cecil Collins, and then we'll let you go and take a break, and hopefully you can join us again next week.
Yeah, Rob, thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing you. I guess I'll see you at SEC Media Days in person, right, in Dallas?
Yeah, we're going to try to go to the national championship game in Houston in January. Okay. Are you going to that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think our station will pay for me to go to that. And if
Yeah.
it's Alabama winning, I don't want to go. So if they win a national championship with this team, we're all going to want to throw up over here at least.
4th and 31. God. 4th and 31. I have nightmares still. I'm having to go to group therapy.
Yeah, Coy Moore played for LSU. Catch that punt, Coy. Oh man.
Yeah.
So anyway, WAFB.com and Jacques Doucet on X, so stupid.
X.
Twitter.com and Facebook and whatnot. And the Cecil Collins documentary is on YouTube. If you search Cecil Collins, Cecil versus the Diesel was the name of it. You can watch it there. Certainly worth your time. It's 37 minutes to watch.
Absolutely is. Thanks so much. We'll take a quick break. Be right back after this.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Welcome to Rumble, bringing half boxing, half strength, and 10 rounds of fire. Pull up, say what's up to our studio team, check in and grab your gear. Don't have gloves, don't have wraps, don't worry, we got you.
You think you better than battle?
Find your starting spot. B means bag, F means floor. Make your way to the studio, find where all the magic happens, give Jab a little love on the way in, or snap a pic for the gram. Tap in with your trainer and get ready to bring the thunder.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you on this Thursday morning. David Schultz joins us right now from the GOAT down in Lafayette, Louisiana. That was good stuff there with Jacques Doucet over in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see his 2 Emmys behind him? Did you see that?
Well,
all I have is hard to find expensive bourbon behind me. He's got 2 Emmys behind him. He's showing off.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something.
That was a humble brag, Rob. That was just straight brag.
Well, my executive, a guy that does all my website and everything, he goes, watch Schultz. He goes, nobody does it better, social media and Twitter, with what you do. So if there's an Emmy for X or whatever, you're putting out, you really are, but you are putting out so much stuff and you retweet and you forward. You know, I've learned this thing because I just started really getting after Twitter about 9 months ago, trying to figure it out, but you've got to be consistent with it.
No, I haven't figured it out yet either.
Yeah, well, you're good at it, but one of the things is you got to vet the bots. And I think when Elon Musk was looking to buy Twitter, he said so many of these people are these bots. And, you know, if I had $1 for every bot every day that wants to be friends with me or you or whoever, we'd have a lot of dollars. But it's crazy.
With all due respect to Elon, he hasn't fixed that. I got a lot of,
oh yeah, that's
women bots, that are liking my stuff that I guess I don't care about, but they are. That's what they are. Yeah,
they really are. Man, look, thank you so much for taking time to join us. Always love having you. We have a lot of great guests, and Audrey's always going, get Dave Schultz on. She goes, he knows what he's talking about, and you do. And I got to ask you, I'm going to throw this one at you right now. There's a question we want to come up with about, and we're going to get into Sunbelt. We're going to cover a lot, but Texas A&M's firing of Jimbo Fisher cost, way more than the $76 million buyout. And I talked to a coach at an SEC school 3 days ago, and he said, consider the staff, the 100 and something people that, 75 or 80% of them are going to lose their jobs. Sure. And then you got to hire a new staff. He said the round trip on that, plus what they paid Jimbo for 6 years to lose 4 or 5 games a year, you're looking at close to a $200 million mistake. This might be the tipping point.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the Ohtani contract. That $200 million is going to be paid out over
it is
5 years, right? That's not. They got to come up with whatever signing bonus Elko has and the $20 million that they owe Jimbo now, and then the rest of it is being paid out over time. And you're right. And so when all these guys get let go, it's not the head coach that I'm worried about, right? It doesn't matter, because the head coach doesn't matter if it's G5 or Power 5. They'll always be taken care of. If they're always going to end up with high 6-figure, if not 7-figure buyouts. It's the assistants who are generally played well, but not nearly as well as the head coach. So these guys are the ones that have to pick up their families. They got to figure out where they're going. They got to wait for the head coaches to be hired. So it really is the assistants and the extraneous, not the extraneous staff, but the support staff that, has to worry about it. And some of these people, in the athletic departments, this, Rob, that, they'll be lucky if they're making a good 5-figure salary. The only benefit of that is that they work, 80 hours a week, so they don't have any time to spend it. So, other than that, and getting you as their financial counselor, which they need to do. Yeah. It working in athletic department is really tough. It pays off if you're at the top, but otherwise, very, very few people outside of the coaching staff and the AD are making a healthy 6-figure salary.
Yeah. And let me say something real quick too about one of our sponsors. I missed this coming out of the break. Rumble Boxing Gym. Wanted to update something. Now they're open Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. You saw the video on the commercial.
You lace them up?
Yeah, they're awesome. I'm going later today or tomorrow. Audrey and I will go over there. It is a 45-minute workout, 15 3-minute sessions. You got dumbbell work, star jacks, burpees, dips, planks, push-ups. It's unbelievable. Then you hit those 250-pound bags. And the instructors, there's 48 people in the class. It's unreal. Saturday and Sunday.
Take a swing at you?
Yeah. Oh, you don't swing at each other, because Audrey would knock the hell out. Audrey would already pummel me. She grew up with 6 brothers. Trust me. So bottom line, I can't imagine how she ever got dates growing up, because having 6 brothers. But anyway.
Rob, I'm done. I'm 54 years old. I'm done with the burpees. When I was a kid, they were called squat thrusts. I am done with. I got bad wheels. Done with the burpees.
Star jacks. It's another. But they're open Sunday 9 a.m. Saturday and Sunday 9 a.m. Till 11 or 12. It just depends on what the schedule's like. But Rumble Boxing, 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis. Easy to get to at the corner of Union and McLean. And there's parking right across the street at the Walgreens. But you get there, everything you need, they've got on site. So let's get ready to rumble with Schultz. First off, let's talk about the Sunbelt, the portal. The Sunbelt is a really strong league. In the last 5 years, there are a lot of years where you could say it was a Power 5. It was better than the Pac-12. Give us the state of the Sunbelt right now, and then how hard do those schools have to fight to keep from losing players in the damn portal? I hate the portal.
Well, yeah, they got to fight hard, right? They have the most teams going to a bowl game this year. They got 12 out of 14 teams going to a bowl game. That's really impressive. And some of those teams are 6-6. I get it. But nonetheless, they are going to a bowl game. And to fight for your guys, right? And so I don't know if I think this has to do with NIL. But Colin Lacey was your 5th leading receiver in the nation in both catches and yards. And it should be noted, and his high school coach just retired, Jacques French, yesterday announced his retirement. He was a running back at a little Catholic high school. I joke, barely in the state of Louisiana. Always thought it was out, closer to Mississippi. But it really is just on the other side of the airport. And he was running back. And then he comes in, they change him to wide receiver. And he's, him and his running partner, Devin Voisin, were, the guys in the slot, moving the chains. And then, this year he did both. He could be on the inside. He can be on the outside. And I was told by somebody that, a Power 5 school can't afford him. He's going to get, this kid is going to get, I mean, maybe allegedly a $500,000 payout. And so I think that has to go with, he's got to jump at that money, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a change in quarterback. I'm not sure if a Carter Bradley returning would prohibit that, because you got to jump on it. He's got size. He's a little guy, he's 5'10", but he's built pretty well. He's got some speed, but you have no idea if he's going to go pro, right?
Yeah.
One injury, and I'm not telling, this is what you would tell Rob, right? If you are Colin Lacey, and I don't know what his financial status is. I don't know what his family is. Maybe they need the money immediately, right? But if he gets a $500,000 check, put that away, and that is his nest egg, and what it could be like when he's 50, right? Don't even touch it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about it. I that's why I'm saying I would love to see them have on NIL age banded or incentive based trust. That's what I would recommend. And I've worked with a lot of really smart attorneys over the year, and never once have we had anybody dole out $10 or $20 million to their teenage children or children in their 20s. Right. It's typically done age 25, 30, and 35.
Again, I don't know the family situation.
Yeah, I don't
maybe
either.
You go buy a car.
Yeah.
Maybe buy a couple of cars, but still you're putting away $450,000. It's not even there. And even if he doesn't go pro and he's making, if he's fortunate to be making $50,000, $60,000, save a little bit of that. And then all of a sudden he wakes up at 40 and he's a multimillionaire. So these teams, who else? Coastal Carolina has like 22 guys in the portal. 22. God. That's 25% of the scholarships. That's crazy. So it is tough to hang on to everybody. Grayson McCall is in the portal. He just went to NC State. So it is tough. It is a free-for-all. Someone has to step up and figure this out. And was it Malik Murphy, the kid from Texas?
Yes.
He's like, I want to stay, but I can't. I got to get into the portal before it closes. So they need to adjust the window for the transfer portal. The problem is, here's the problem with the transfer portal, right? You want to be on campus for the spring semester, and some of these spring semesters start right after the new year. Yeah. My school didn't start until, Rob, I came up and I moved back in my spring semester during the Bengals 49ers Super Bowl that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Montana to Taylor. But some of these schools start like on January 4th, and you got to be on campus at that point in time. And so I don't know how you fix that. But that's what Malik Murphy is doing. And that's Texas. That's not Group of 5. That's Texas. He had to leave. So,
well, when we were on the quarter system at Auburn, it would start January 3rd or 4th. I mean, it was quick. So
when did you get out?
We would get out December 7th or 8th. So it was different.
When would you finish? Did you finish at the end of May or the beginning of May or end of May?
June 6th on the quarter system. Kidding. That would be the end of spring quarter. Now you're out the first week of May.
A month beyond everybody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but we didn't start school till around the 24th of September in the fall on the quarter system. Okay. But I'll tell you, David, what was nuts was you go and you think about, like, Ole Miss has a deal where these kids get out. They're already out for Christmas break. Okay. They won't start back until January 24th. They do this thing where you can go for 2 weeks and you go 8 hours a day for 2 weeks and you can take a whole semester of classes. It's an accelerated program. So we've got some guys in our hunting club. The kids are at Ole Miss. Man, it's great for a duck hunting because you have almost all of January off. But I like to be – the kids are normally out the first week of May. But the thing about Malik Murphy, David Cody is texting me right now, longtime sports anchor at Channel 7 in Austin, lives out in Bellingham, Washington now. And he is doing a series of stories for DKR Stadium. But he texted me about Malik Murphy. And the guys we have covering Texas really think this guy's a super talent. He's going to go somewhere. But let me throw this one at you, David.
You see what it was on his list? Did you see one of the teams on his list?
I haven't looked at all of it. I was driving, but I just heard about it.
My Orange are on that list. That's insane. That's insane. I don't think he's
this
coming, but that's
he's
insane.
Really good though. He's 6'5", 250. Yeah. He's from California, and this is what's really, I think, happening. You have a free agency window. Think about Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma. He's a 5'10" quarterback. He might have gotten feedback from the NFL, says, you know what? I'll go to Oregon for a year, get a bunch of money with NIL because I might not even get drafted, so I'll stay in college another year. That's what's going on.
That's an exact example. That's a perfect example. Like, he may not be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
But now if he's you got to figure he's getting a 7-figure deal going out to Oregon, right? That doesn't take a super genius to figure that out. Good for him.
Yeah. And that's where
and he gets a job at Nike and he's making 6 figures.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. That's where the free market is working. And I always say a free market will work it out. You know, when we look at the price of oil, people think it's just going to go up, 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 up. It's manipulated. Just here's why we have oil around $80 or $85. The 5 OPEC nations need to have oil around $80 a barrel to balance their budgets. It's that simple. So we artificially cut production here and make sure it's the same thing with the free market. We're all thinking that it's going to get worse and worse and worse. It's not. It'll correct itself because fans will say, all right, no mas.
Right. The oil is not as free as market as we think it
exactly.
is. As we think it is, right?
Yeah. So you look at it, but now, and I'm going to say this too. You look at the Sunbelt schools. They don't have the athletic budgets that the SEC schools have, but there's also so much waste. There's no accountability at all. If you get an athletic director who's coming from a Sunbelt school, and let's say he goes to an SEC school, might be the best thing to happen to you because he's had to learn about living on a tight ship without as much money. It might be more efficient.
But here's the thing about those things, right? And a lot of these are state schools. So you probably know this, Rob, right? If you have a certain amount of money and it's coming from the state and you have some left over, guess what happens? They cut the budget.
Yeah.
So now these athletic departments are making sure they spend all of it. So it's they don't show a profit, although everybody's making money. So, but they just make sure they spend the money, whether it's on coaches or facilities or recruiting or wherever we got to spend it to make sure that we get it the next year or even get a little bit more. They could show a profit, but they don't want to. Very few schools. I don't know anybody else, but I know LSU, right? LSU gives money back to the school. They give money back to the general fund, like $10 to $15 million, right? Like LSU athletics is self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many other schools are like that. So when we hear that, I saw, Mark Ryan from upstate in South Carolina, the fan upstate the fan. He said, he goes, these schools are not profitable. Very few schools are profitable. That's intentional. That's intentional. They spend all the money. They could be much more efficient, but they have plenty of people who work for them who are getting all of the money.
Well, let's be honest. These administrators, for the lack of a better term, have no accountability. That's what's going on. And remember back in the 1980s, General Dynamics, the $800 toilet seat and the $1,200 hammers to the defense contractors. Right. That's what's going on. If you're on it, and look, Auburn and Alabama don't take a dime from the state. Their athletic departments are completely self-funded. From what I believe, it's 100%. Now, if they were to do a large stadium issue, there probably would be a bond issue, okay? Municipal bonds. But trust me.
No, usually those raise themselves. No, usually when they're doing a major, that would be the one thing. When they're doing, like Alabama did their major stadium renovation for this past year, I'm pretty sure that's done in-house. I'm not sure they're getting public funds for that. They could ask for it, but I'm pretty sure they raise the money on their own.
Well, a lot of like that $91 million football only facility at Auburn, the Schultzes got involved with it. Now it's the Schultz Football Performance Center. But I look at structuring of public finance deals. I mean, they're big, and I've been in that business a long time. Those things will fly off the sales floor. I mean, if you do a $250 million issue, Bryant-Denny, Tiger Stadium, Neyland Stadium, I mean, everybody, I'll take $1 million of those. That's a great way to support your school and also get, in today's market, 4 to 5%, depending on the maturity that you buy, federal and state tax-free income. And you look at the taxable equivalent yield on that, that's like getting 6.5 or 7%. But interest rates are going down. I'm just saying
They are.
Texas A&M did a $450 million expansion from Johnny Manziel, all privately funded from what we're told. But let me go back to something you said, because you're right. A&M does not pay that $76 million to Jimbo out up front. $19 million is paid within 60 days. And then there's an amortization scale over the next 8 years of $7.2 million a year.
Right.
So,
and you're not paying Elko's contract up front either. That's on an annual basis. So
it's an annual. You're right.
You maybe have to pay some movie expenses there, but now we're talking, a little chump change compared to what the overall contract is, right? I mean, maybe it's a couple $1 million for all of the moving expenses for all of the coaches and all of the support staff, but it's very little combined. So maybe they're doling out $25 million, up front. That compared to like you said, it'll be $200 million over the course of 5 years, 6 years, whatever Elko's contract calls for, and everybody else. So that's the thing. And this is going to happen, right? Yeah. What if Elko does win the SEC in a couple of years?
Oh,
what's going to happen? He's going to get a new contract.
Jimmy Sexton, help me out, Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, they won't even have to call Jimmy Sexton.
Jimmy will call him.
He'll get that. They'll say, here's your new 7-year contract. They'll do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I like what the state of Mississippi does, David. 4 years is the max that you can go out on a contract. Okay. You can't do a 10-year deal. Right. Remember Charlie Weiss's deal at Notre Dame? That was the worst thing. His first 2 years, he had Brady Quinn at quarterback.
Yeah, that's the thing, Rob. I am, so Troy lost John Summerall to Tulane, right?
Yeah,
I was kind of hoping he'd stay because I think he's going to go to a Power 5 school here in a couple of years. Okay, it's tough to compete. I think he was making like $825 when he got there, and maybe about $1 million in his second year. And then Tulane comes along, offers 2.1. Troy offers 1.4, and then someone said that he got 2.5 million. So that's a lot of money. 2.5 to 1.4, right? But you got to be able to somewhere along the way. The Sunbelt's got to be able to keep some of these coaches because they're losing them to about $1 million difference.
Yeah,
somewhere along the way they're going to have to step up. Because, now Jamie Chadwell was making about $1 million at Coastal, then he went to $4 million at
Liberty.
Can't compete with that. You can't blow your budget up like that. So John Summerall left because he was getting a little bit more money. Tulane's got a little bit bigger of a budget. It's a totally different school, right? Troy, for those who don't know, you know this better than me. Is there anything else in Troy besides Troy? That's it. That's the whole town. They are getting a bourbon distillery.
Guthrie's Chicken Fingers.
Okay. All right. But Conecuh is putting their Clyde Mays distillery, but that's only going to hire about 30 people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a hospital there, and that's about all. That's all that's in Troy. Tulane, that's a major league city.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Small major league city, but it is not a college town. And Troy is the high end of that city.
Yeah. Well, John Hartwell and Matt Dean are going to be on here in about 7 minutes. Stay on with us if you can, because I want to talk about this because, David, honestly, the Sunbelt needs advocates out there like every conference does. I mean, there's nobody better than you. I call you the Sultan of the Sunbelt, but you really are. But that's where I see an opportunity for private investors. And I said this with Jacques Doucet, and his head was spinning. He goes, man, it's too early in the morning. He goes, you caught me on that one. But I see a private venture capital groups coming together to fund. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do it to fund sports other than football. That's all I'm saying.
I guess.
And you see what Maury Gaston says?
Be very careful.
I'm just saying that because look,
all I hear when you say private venture capital is that someone coming in, scooping stuff up and selling off the pension, and then nobody has anything left.
That's what I'm saying.
Private investment people. So
I'm just saying,
be very careful. You know a lot more about that than I do, and that is one of the few things that I'll admit about you. So.
Yeah, well, but
I would be very careful once you get in the middle of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's where for sports other than foot, because Dave Tompkins talked about at Stanford where he got his MBA. He's on the show with us a lot over in Beaufort, South Carolina. He said the Stanford alums are madder than hell at what the president, the board, the athletic department, they've driven that athletic department into the ditch. They used to win the Sears Cup or compete for the top 2 or 3 every year. their football, they're just a dumpster fire.
They have,
and they've got
and that's
tons
the thing
of
about
money.
Tulane, right? So that's the thing. So Stanford has this multi-billion-dollar endowment, right? They're not going to be hurting. They could easily self-fund their own athletic department without the help of any money. All right.
Yes.
Tulane, though, Tulane is coming, they see themselves as a place of higher learning.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a really good college, probably the best academic school in Louisiana, and it ain't cheap to go. All right. But you know this, Rob, and I didn't know it until I got here in the South, and then specifically Alabama. And we've talked about this before, right? I can talk out of both sides of my mouth that as a football coach, Nick Saban is overpaid. But as the football coach of Alabama, the enrollment of Alabama has up 50% since Nick Saban came in. So, and who would have guessed this? They have more people from out of state than in state. That's purely because they win championships. They're on TV every week. That's a 3.5-hour commercial that you can't pay for. And everything is getting better because of what Alabama has done over the last 15 years or so with Nick Saban. Tulane is trying to do that. Willie Fritz kind of, was like, we didn't have the full cooperation of the administration, in so many words. Mm-hmm. And so you need to be able to do that. And that Stanford's taking a back seat. Now the whole thing is going to be, whack with the, conference realignment. But that is the best way. In my case, Syracuse, I couldn't believe they weren't all in on the NIL and the transfer portal when it happened. Right? Syracuse is not a cheap school to go. It's like $75,000 a year. You can't find some alum to help you out with NIL. Come on. They should have been all in on this. And I said this before, right? You can't compete with Clemson, Miami, and Florida State, but you damn well better be able to compete with Wake Forest, Duke, and NC State. And finally, they are. Finally, they got somebody who can recruit, and finally, they're like, you got to pay in the NIL. Let's step it up. And the schools that don't are going to get left behind.
Yeah, if you want to be 7-5, 8-4, keep doing what you're doing. You got to pay to play, and it's what it's going to take. And so I'll throw something else at you.
That's my that's my Emmy. That's my Jacques Doucet Emmy. That's a 19-year-old old Fitzgerald.
Yeah, that looks good.
I got to if Jacques Doucet is showing off his Emmys, I'm going to show off my 19-year-old old Fitzgerald.
Well, now, do you like Knob Creek or Woodford Reserve?
Can I tell you something, Rob? I'm nervous holding the bottle. I'm going to put this down because I'm nervous holding the bottle.
I love it. Well, look,
I can fix a drop. I can fix a drop Emmy. If this falls, that's a problem.
Well, let me tell you something. I remember in college, we would make, a lot of people would go to the game and you'd make a bourbon and Coke. And my dad pulled me aside one time. He said, boy, only rubes, boobs, and rednecks put bourbon and Coke together. He goes, bourbon and water.
No, my drink is Makers and Diet. I drink Makers and
Diet. And Coke, but it's the sugar on he was kidding with me. But the point was about the sugar on sugar. That's what gives you the hangover. Now, my mother believes whiskey should only be drinking on the rocks. She said, my mother and father always said, don't ruin good whiskey with anything other than a cube or two of ice. And she drinks her Smirnoff every night when the sun goes down, which is like jet fuel. That's what the kids, the grandkids call it.
The better bourbon. I had, what did I have the other day? I tried to get Midwinter's Dram. That was not it. I got a High West cask strength. I did that neat. Yeah. But most of the time, at the same time as I had the cask strength, I had a Makers and Diet to go with the food. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And I'm a Scotch and water fan because as a kid, my dad would say, hey, boy, Scotch and water. So I'd make him and I'd always sip it. So not many people like Scotch, but I do. I like Scotch and water. Yeah. It's good. It's just a slow, you don't chug it, but it's slow. But
you don't do that with bourbon either.
Old Fitzgerald, huh?
Yeah, that's a tough bottle to find. I paid retail for that. That's an Acorn. How about this one? I'm actually going into a bourbon lottery tonight. I could come away. I won't. I could come away with your Whistle Pig 18 or Boss Hog or something like that. But I may get a Pappy or something. I got a list. Yeah. The list they sent was like about 50 bottles, and I don't want to get one that I've already gotten. So.
Let me tell you something. Maury Gaston, Lockheed Martin makes missiles in Troy. There you
go.
All
right, so there you go. Like I freely admit I don't know what else is in Troy. Yeah. I'm not. Okay. Lockheed Martin is big time. Lockheed Martin used to be in Central New York. Yeah, that's a big time deal, right?
Well, and look, all these towns there's so much ancillary business that comes as the result of the university being there. And that's what's so cool watching that. I gotta say this too. When you think about your great bar, whenever you have a bring, bottle, stock the bar party, whatever, I've always noticed guys like my friend Jeff Heimbach will bring Old Crow or Heaving Hill or something like that.
Well, that's
like, no, this stuff. Yeah, we called it Heaving Hill because pretty soon you'd be John Hartwell on here right now. We're going to get into this discussion. If you'll hold on with us, we're talking about in Troy, John Summerall going over, and David, I'm getting out of his way. He's the Sultan of the Sunbelt. But Matt Dean will be joining us in a minute. But David, hang on with us if you can. I've got to take a quick commercial break. Then we're going to be right back. I really want to get into this discussion of these college towns and the money and everything that come about of a strong university, because a rising tide truly floats all the boats. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne.
All right, Rob Browne back with, man, what a trio we got here. David Schultz down there, the GOAT in Lafayette, Louisiana, the Sultan of the Sunbelt.
Can I welcome John Hartwell? I have a pretty good source. I have a good source that John Hartwell may have a heavy foot while driving a certain head coach back to campus. I'm not going to reveal my source, although it's not difficult to figure out who the source may be.
Yes.
Do you wish to confirm or deny that report?
Hey, you can't let grass grow under your feet, David. How you doing, my friend? Hey, I feel like we're sharing the show with royalty today, Lafayette's finest.
Yes.
And like you say, the Sultan of the Sunbelt.
Hell yeah. I mean, and it really is. We've had a great discussion. Coach Matt Dean over in Memphis at Rhodes College is on with us right now. This has been a great discussion. And David, I'll let you run with this one, what you said about Troy and John Summerall going over to Tulane. But and Maury Gaston, Lockheed Martin makes missiles in Troy. I didn't know that, John. And Maury's watching right now there at American Cast Iron Pipe Company in Birmingham at the corporate office, over 100 years making pipes to deliver clean drinking water. So next time you're at the water fountain, thank Maury Gaston and the great folks at ASIPCO.
Yeah, if you're heading west out of Troy, heading on the Montgomery Highway, about 10 miles west of Troy towards Montgomery is that Lockheed Martin plant out there.
I did not know that. I sound like Ed McMahon or Johnny Carson. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Well, let's get started. And David, you know that John just hired a new football coach at ULM, and we're talking about the Sunbelt.
Already got one flip.
Yeah. Let's get started and talking about how he's breaking in and where you're going from here.
So here's the thing, when you talk about, because what ULM is, all right, and I've talked to John, and we've talked to the new coach, Bryant Vincent, about this, right? ULM may be the toughest job in FBS, all right, just based on previous, and John is trying to change that with, you told me that the reason the program didn't have any money because nobody was asking. The one thing I've realized is that John is not shy. He will ask. All right. He may not get the answer that he wants, but he's certainly going to ask.
Hey, it's like getting a date, David. You got to ask.
That's right.
Or later, somebody is either going to feel sorry for you or you're going to catch them in a weak moment and they're going to say yes.
Exactly. So, so let's compare the two situations. I'm live down here now, but there's just not a whole lot of talent in Central New York that, that other teams are coming in and, Syracuse is having a battle for, right? There's not. Whereas in northern Louisiana, across that I-20 corridor, there is a ton of talent, whether it is LSU, Alabama, Florida, Arkansas, A&M, or Texas, trying to get that talent. It's there. And that's going to be the, challenge for Brian Vincent, is to get some of that talent to stay nearby. Can't get all of it, and he may not be able to get the high end of it, but you got to get some of it, especially the ones that are going to La Tech or the Cajuns or Tulane. You've got to get some of that to stay home. And once you do that, all right, and once you get a connection into the high schools in that area, which he's familiar with, then all of a sudden you can be a consistent program that ULM's been looking for the past couple of decades. And he's already got one flip. So an offensive lineman from up there went from Texas State to ULM. Thanks, I'm staying home. Yeah. Boom. That took a week.
Yeah, we got 28 kids coming in, 2 tonight, and then the rest coming in tomorrow. So 28 kids, and you talk about not letting the grass grow under your feet. With him being named basically a week ago, assembling a staff. They spent last weekend down at the Superdome at the Louisiana State Championship games, and having this big recruiting weekend. Made up, not entirely transfers, but a lot of transfers, and trying to get ready for signing date, next week. So,
Matt, you're listening to what's going on in the Sunbelt. You look at what you do over at Rhodes. Your son's on that staff at Oregon. The portal, trying to flip people. It's free agency right now. And you're seeing, we talked about this, A&M getting rid of Jimbo, getting rid of the staff, having to bring a new staff in over the next 5 or 6 years could be a $200 million event. You're an AD at a school like that. Is your head about to explode when you start looking at the money that's coming and going like that?
It's good to be back on, guys. I think it's just one of the things we have to realize is how exhausting it is for these coaches with the timing of the portal. They don't get a break. I mean, you're seeing really good football players go into portal on teams that are in the college football semifinal. And that's just unfortunate that we have to have a young person make a decision on their future, whether or not they like their role. And obviously they don't if they're leaving a school, but just the timing of it. We debate everything about the portal, but the timing of it is just exhausting for these coaches. My son got activated this week. He was on the road recruiting in the state of Texas, flying back as we speak to go to Oregon for official visits. And then we got bowl practice starting, right? So we're trying to squeeze a 3-day window in just to see him and trying to get flights back out to Memphis, Tennessee. So going to A&M quickly, I'm a huge fan of Elijah Robinson, who just left to become the defensive coordinator at Syracuse. You can obviously see that with Fran Browne going up there, I think they're going to recruit. Elijah's hometown, I believe, David, is Camden, New Jersey. They've already got a couple commits from there. A&M was able to pull some kids from the Northeast because of Elijah. Elijah was the interim coach. Regardless of what happened in that search process, Elijah thought he had a good shot at the job. So long story short, he's at Syracuse. Fran Browne. Another good hire is Nick Williams, who was with the Aggies and my son a few years ago, went with Coach Prime this past year at Colorado. I think he played for a couple years at Georgia. He's a terrific young man, going to do great things. I think the Qs is going to be back in the top third of the ACC really quickly, David.
Guys, Syracuse was here. They were in Lafayette. I don't know. Yeah. I know one player from Louisiana off the top of my head that played for Syracuse, and that was Dave Johnson, played basketball for Morgan City. McKinley is this five-star defensive tackle out of Acadiana, not the area, but the high school. Right. All right? And he's still committed to A&M. But Monday, Syracuse coaches were here in Lafayette. I'm really disappointed they didn't call my services for a tour guide, but c'est la vie. On Tuesday, LSU was here. Syracuse has never, ever competed with LSU for a player. They may not get them, but they wouldn't even consider that. And that's what you're talking about, Elijah, and what Fran Browne has done for the Orange. And now if they get if they get the Kyle McCord, people are talking about they're going to compete for an ACC championship. You got to be kidding me, but whatever.
but John, you know this from your days back as a player. You know, we get all tied into universities, and yeah, I go to Auburn, Rob. I love the facilities, let's say, and I want to play there, but I'm playing for a coach, a head coach. And at the end of the day, the reason Syracuse can turn it around quickly is two things: relationships with that new coaching staff, and also the portal. I know we badmouth the portal, but if the portal is used properly, almost like NFL free agency, you can really upgrade your roster in a quicker amount of time. Now, you still have to recruit high school kids. You've got to do it that way too, but you got to have some roster management that goes through the portal. And, you know, shout out to Oregon getting Dylan Gabriel so quickly. One of the best quarterbacks in the portal. Losing Bo Nix, who had a fabulous 2 years. Bo's also staying to play in the bowl game, which is huge for them. Their former five-star Ty Thompson, who I really like, who got limited minutes this last 2 years, just entered the portal. He's a quarterback. I think he may be looking at NC State. I'm not for sure. So,
well, I mean, look at the portal. Grayson McCall last year thought he was going to be able to transfer, but realized he hadn't done his academic work and had to stay at Coastal Carolina for another year. John Hartwell, I brought this question up with David Tompkins, one of our members of Savant Saturday. He's over in Beaufort, South Carolina, again from Mountain Brook, Alabama fan from birth, but a West Point grad, got an MBA at Stanford, and he's a smart guy. And he said, look, the Stanford guys, we're mad because they've driven that athletic department into the ground. You know, when the women's basketball coach, Tara Vanderveer or whatever, when she leaves, it's going to be a full-blown 5-alarm fire, and there's only, you know, one fire station to put the fire out. They've got money. They got everything you want, you know, and how do you screw that up? You know, and you're one of the rare ones. And I was talking to somebody at a school, nameless, I'll keep it anonymous, the other day, and we were talking about you. I said, I would want John Hartwell to come in there because he's got a reputation as he's going to clean house on the dead weight, and he's not worried about hurting people's feelings. You know, it was the way he was raised. I said, I've learned a lot about this guy. He went to the Citadel and graduated in 4 years with a degree in accounting and played basketball. But you got to have accountability, John. And most of these guys are administrators, have never been in the private sector, and they don't understand how to live within a budget. You're the perfect guy to be at ULM because of what you're facing, and I think you'll be able to get the most out of every dollar there is. But talk about the lack of accountability. And then if you went to a donor and said, look at the accountability, this is the return on investment if you give to us, I think that's the selling pitch I'd be doing if I were you at 6'7", the sophomore from Mobile Wright High School.
Yeah, here's the thing that obviously fans, donors, everybody else gets caught up in wins and losses, and wins and losses are extremely important, and you know, school spirit, all of that. But at the end of the day, it's more than just games. It's a business. And, you know, there are plenty of good people out there that don't necessarily know how to coach. And in today's world, like you talk about, NIL, transfer portal, all of that, it's not just about X's and O's. It's about player development. It's about, in a lot of cases, just like being an NBA head coach, you've got to be a psychologist as much as you have to be, you know, a basketball or a football strategist to maximize the opportunity for your team to be successful. And if you're not, and again, I don't get hung up in number of wins and losses. It's the trajectory of your program over a sustained period of time. And if that's not going in a positive direction, there are changes that need to be made. And whether that's a change at the head spot, a change at a coordinator position, all of those things. And you know, that's what people get caught up in, is that, oh, how can you make a change with somebody with the last name Bowden, or how can you do this? It's not about the individuals. It's about the institution. And it's about giving us the optimum opportunity to win. And that's how you have to approach it, with a business decision in everything that you do.
Yeah. David, you see all these different Sunbelt schools, the budgetary constraints and they have to deal with compared to these SEC schools. Add something to that. I think that's a great description John just gave.
Well, you got to stay in your lane. You can't compete, right? The Cajuns can't go up against LSU. You're going to lose that every time. But you have to maximize your possibilities. And I know the reason. All right. So despite it being a couple of good years, the last few years, the oil service industry's tanked, somewhere around 14 or 15, right? And it never recovered. The jobs that were lost here didn't come back, despite the oil industry having a really good, handful of years since a couple of years after COVID. And so when I got here in 2013, the Cajuns were averaging, 25, 28 would bring in 30,000 a game. And during Billy Napier's, one loss, Sunbelt championship year, they're bringing in like 10 to 12. And so now they're redoing the stadium. It hasn't been redone, and they've done some fixing it up and enclosing it, but now they're going to redo it. It's going to be down to 30,000 instead of 40. And in 2025, they really need to, I would say sell it out, but that may depend on the weather and how good the team is. But they really need to reboot. They're redoing their ticket system. They're bringing it in-house, and they need to sell groups. And you need to be averaging 25,000 a game. If they don't bring in 150,000 in a 6-game schedule in 2025, there's an issue. Either the team was bad or the weather didn't cooperate, whatever the case is. Yeah. But they really need to solidify themselves, or I don't know where you go from there, right? I mean, the team won the Sunbelt Conference Championship last year in basketball. They sold like 1,000 season tickets. I don't know what's going on. I know the team isn't quite as good, and the NIL didn't work out. The portal didn't work out for Jordan Browne, who went to Memphis, unfortunately for him. And the Cajuns did get a nice win over Eastern Kentucky last night. But, why aren't they supporting the basketball team the way they should? I don't expect 9,000 there for a midweek Eastern Kentucky game when maybe the students aren't around. But, geez, there's 500,000 people in the area. They can't get 4,000 to 5,000. I don't understand it. So as far as I'm concerned, the Cajuns have this year and a half to figure out their marketing for not only for football, but for all the schools. And it needs to be a little bit more of a concerted effort come 2025. They need to do a better job of filling the seats.
I agree. Let me throw this one at you. Topic of discussion. I put this up myself. Why not make athletic facilities RPAs, revenue producing assets, as opposed to NRAs? And I had this discussion with an athletic officer at a school this past week. And he said, we're building these massive facilities, football stadium, basketball arena, whatever, that are used 7 times a year, 8 times a year, basketball arena maybe 17 times a year. Why not rent them out for conventions and weddings and conferences and stuff like that? I'll start with you, Matt. Rhodes College. When a Hollywood movie crowd comes in, the directors come in wearing their berets and doing all this, with the camera to Rhodes College as a backdrop for a film. They don't do it for free. I guarantee you they got to go through the 6'3", 207-pound sophomore from Davenport, Iowa, and they're going to have to pay for it. Why not find every way you can to get these facilities to turn a profit? Is that possible? And then after that, I want John to jump in on this because it's the AD angle on Thursday sidelines. Love this. Well, John knows more about this than I do, but a lot of places are built that way. And like even in our building, Rob, I gave you a tour. You remember going up to the ballroom in our athletic facility? Yes. Now that area is used by our campus for development, for admissions, by our current athletic staff. But we rent that out all the time to groups. Now, there's got to be a prioritization where if I'm an athletic or a Rhodes group that we can't overbook, right? But at the end of the day, if you're not seeking more revenue generation opportunities, you're failing. And I want to give John a little props. I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, but one of the things about being an athletic director, I think, is instilling confidence. And if you look at John's first women's basketball hire, they're off to an 8-1 start. I think you got Bama this week in a bye game, John. I think this Sunday. Good luck, or Saturday. I'm not sure. I was popping on your schedule.
but it's about confidence from the top down. So yeah, it's not easy going through a football search. Been there, done that. I'm proud of the one that we have in our place right now, and I was a part of. And it takes a buy-in, because I've always felt like in athletic departments, if football and basketball are healthy, it's a trickle-down effect, and everything kind of spreads from there. When they're not healthy, everybody's pointing their finger like, why are they getting all the resources? They suck. Sorry, my language. But it's true. And when you get those things corrected, the confidence permeates throughout the department, and you as a leader have easier conversations when you're asking for money, because at the top of your rung, it's healthy.
That's a great point there, Rob. I mean, excuse me, Matt. And you know, the big thing is, and I had this conversation in a vice president's meeting yesterday. Apathy sets in if you don't win on a fairly regular basis. It also creates, you know, you guys have heard this term before. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so, you know, in order to erode that apathy, whether it's internally within the university or in the community, like David was talking about in Lafayette, you've got to give the fan base, you've got to give the community, you've got to give the university community something to grasp onto that says, hey, we're improving, we're getting better. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, apathy is very easy to set in, especially when maybe you're in the shadows of Baton Rouge and you know, you see a women's basketball team winning a national championship 2 or 3 years removed from a football team winning a national championship, baseball winning a national championship. So the bar is set high. And that's not the expectation that here in Monroe or in Lafayette, you win a national championship on a regular basis. But damn, you got to be competitive. You've got to win. You've got to be. And if you're not, what are you doing to get better? Because if you're not doing things to do that, that apathy spreads like wildfire. And people say, you know, why should I be interested in this? Why should I be interested in that? And it not only this is a place where, you know, athletics is the front porch of the institution. And I don't care how good, you know, if you've got Nobel Peace Prize winners or Rhodes Scholars or all of these different things from an academic standpoint, that gets buried deep in the news. But if you are successful or unsuccessful in athletics, particularly in football and in men's basketball, as you talked about, Matt, that's front page news. And that's kind of what drives the barometer of that apathy.
Yeah. David, jump in. Yeah.
Before you guys came, Jacques Doucet from WAFB in Baton Rouge was on there, and he was upstaging me with his 2 Emmys behind him. So I'm doing hard to find bourbon. That's my Emmy. All right. That's an Elmer T. Lee bottle. You can't find that bottle. That's my Emmy. I'm nervous just holding it.
And is that the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Oh, the old Fitzgerald. Yeah, I won't pick that up again. A 19-year-old old Fitzgerald. Yeah, I'm too nervous holding that. Funny you should mention about the state, holding concerts, right? Because I think Cajun Field, I'd be shocked if Cajun Field has 20 events a year, right? They do high school football games early on, the jamborees, and then they have their 6 home games, and there may be some band competitions. They can't fit an 18-wheeler down the ramp into the stadium to put concerts on. There's no reason why they should not be having outdoor concerts here in Lafayette in the spring and in the fall. Get it in, get it out. I got it that Taylor Swift may not show up, but you could damn well put in a country concert. You can certainly put in a rock and roll concert, right? They don't all have to go in the Cajun Dome. And there's no reason why you can't have, you know, a refurbished Cajun Field hosting, you know, 50 events a year. Certainly more than the 10 to 12 that they are now. And you can make it a money generating situation where, you know, we are benefiting from not just 6 days, you know, between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. You need to make it more profitable. And hopefully that's what's going to happen. Allegedly, you know, they're going to make it more accessible to get those 18-wheelers down there so you can set up stages.
Well, you fixed that immediately. Let me throw this at you. I love that. What is that one right there?
Elmer T. Lee.
There you go.
Elmer T. Lee.
Let me throw this one at you before we go to you, John. I remember March 16th, Monday of 2020, when the pandemic hit. We were able to go into the office. We had 90 minutes alphabetically to get off our desk what we needed to go home and work from home. We were told we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Well, 2 years later, I'm at another firm. We'd sold to a bank. Things changed. But I'll tell you what, the guys I work with in our company, all those traders and the guys in sales and our support staff had record profitability in the middle of all the chaos. Because you know what? It was $1.5 trillion of liquidity in the financial markets. It was unbelievable. But people were working like crazy. You improvise, you adapt, and you overcome. That's Clint Eastwood. We know about it, Heartbreak Ridge. But in the other one, my friend Chris Lynch's father, mechanical engineer, Georgia Tech grad, who invented the thing on the gas pump. He got the patent on it that makes it turn off. Pretty smart for a guy on the GI Bill after World War II going to Georgia Tech. Engineers may not be the most exciting people. Some people make jokes about them, but you cannot live without them, and they make the world move. But I'm just saying that people adapt. And I love what Schultz just said. Cajun Field, think about you in Monroe. And Rhodes College has been used for a lot of movies. The Bryan Center, the Bryan family. I mean, what a kind, generous people. People with that kind of money don't have to give. But after what Dave just said, and I know Matt and John, when you talk to wealthy people, you can speak their language. And in the background, you need to have on their favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And the wealthier a person is, the more money they have, especially if they're self-made, the more they're going to demand accountability. I mean, I want a CPA working for me who's excited about my business, who's going, hey, I'll take care of everything. Here's my fee. It's a turnkey deal. You are different than most every AD out there. You look in the Fortune 500 CEOs in America, 52% of them have what kind of a degree? A degree in the humanities? No. CPA. John Hartwell.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece of it because, when you ask somebody to, invest in your program, and I use that word invest intentionally, you're not asking for a donation. You're asking, sure, they can take it as a tax write-off, but you're asking them to invest in your program just like they would invest in the stock market. And people aren't just going to say, take out those that still read the paper version of the Wall Street Journal and turn to the New York Stock Exchange and say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I'm picking this stock. They're going to look at leadership. They're going to look at performance. They're going to look at what their strategic plan is, all of those things. And obviously, when you look at performance from our perspective, as it relates to football, men's and women's basketball, last 10 years have not been pretty for Warhawk Athletics. But hey, we've got a plan in place. Here's what we've got as objectives. Here's what we're doing to correct where we've been. And then all of a sudden people, they're not investing necessarily in past performance. They're investing in the future and investing in the plan to correct that. And, y'all heard me say this before. It's not just people who have a ULM or a Northeast Louisiana degree. It's people anywhere in Northeast Louisiana who have a business interest, because the success of our football and men's basketball programs lead to more people eating in restaurants, shopping in shops, staying in hotels, and it helps the economic, has a positive economic impact on all of our areas. So all of those things are really important. Hey, one thing I want to go back to what David said, and, imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Yeah.
I just saw yesterday, the day before, where Georgia Southern announced a concert in their football stadium. Cole Swindell is doing it, and the vast majority of the proceeds are going into their NIL collective. So, hey, there's a way that they are combining revenue for the department, revenue for their collective to be able to help in recruiting. Although, again, always remember this. NIL is not to be used as a recruiting inducement. That's
of course
that's
not
the party line, and stick to that. But
yes,
again, very, very clever work, by our Sunbelt conference brethren doing that concert. And you guys have heard me talk about, just here within, the hometown of within 20 miles of Monroe, you've got Tim McGraw, Laney Wilson, Dylan Scott. So we're working on some things as well.
Well, I love what you're talking about. You're investing in there's so much that comes from your investment into that university. If you are a business owner, you giving say $500,000 or $1 million, and you own restaurants in that area that could bring in $10-15 million to you, that's a great investment. That's why you got to have people with strong business acumen in the position that you're in as an AD. You can't just have people coming in and hiring their buddies that are incompetent. Matt Dean, you heard what he just said and what Schultz just said. In athletic department, more and more going forward, you go back, state universities like an Auburn or LSU or Alabama 20, 25 years ago got 80 or 90% of their budget from the state legislature every year. I'll be willing to bet all three of y'all a steamer pack of crystals, a box of sponges, and a 30 rack of Ham's beer on this one. That now the money that comes and supports LSU or Auburn or ULM is less than 10% from the state, 90% privately funded, Matt. You're at a private university. You get nothing from the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, everything we do, guys, here is enrollment driven. If we have a great year in enrollment services, it benefits our product. We bring in a third of the class every year in athletics. To kind of touch on what John and David said, I look at one of my first hires as AD. I brought in a really good swim coach. And besides winning conference championships, he established a summer program for our pool. We have now, and I know, Rob, you're a swimmer. We have so many kids, probably about 200 kids that have a Come to Link swim club, that not only that has served as a fundraiser for our swim program, it drives interest in swimmers when they get to high school to look at roads as an option for swimming. Swimming is a very unique sport. Obviously, there's not a ton of facilities in the city of Memphis that offer swimming. We're very selective in opening up our pool because I will tell you, as someone that's in facilities now, maintaining and running a pool is a challenge every day. We don't have an indoor natatorium. We have an outdoor pool that we put a tent over and a heating system in it for 3 months of the year. So our student athletes can train. It's just been a difficult process, but by hiring the right coach, going back to my point with John's women's basketball hire, you hire the right coach, the rest of the program leads you in a direction where it can benefit the whole community.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. This is a great discussion. I know the architect that designed that pool and everything over there at Rhodes, and he put music in there underwater where you can listen to music while you're swimming. But I like to focus on swimming. The splash keeps me going. We're going to be right back. We've got David Schultz, the GOAT, down in Lafayette, Louisiana. John Hartwell, AD at ULM. Matt Dean, Associate AD, Rhodes College in Memphis. We'll be back for the final segment right after this quick commercial break.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Here with this distinguished panel. Let me say something today. It is almost Christmas. You got Hanukkah, Christmas, a lot going on. Get out to Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. Love it. On the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Man, David Schultz, that is some good looking stuff.
Yeah, so I'm going to give off the impression that I have an issue here. My issue is not the drinking. My issue is the buying. All right.
It's the collecting of the bottles.
So this bottle you cannot find in this country except at the distillery in Japan. I don't know why that's the case, but that is the case. No.
It's like collecting gold bullion. You know, you can't buy a car with it, but it's good to have.
I'm giving off the appearance that I may need to go to some meetings here, but I swear I buy more than I drink, which is a problem, admittedly.
Well, if his office is that stocked, I'd love to see his bar.
Yeah, that's right. Let me say something real quick, though. Hewlett and Dunn, they're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6. Wow, that is impressive. Yeah. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Again,
and
they're open on Sundays. Not a drinking problem.
Well, collector. They're open 1 to 5 on Sundays through Christmas. Hewlett and Dunn is. And I got to say something. They are the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. And they've got the collection of women's clothes, men's clothes, STS Western Wear, Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors. Look, if you like Rip's jacket and the clothes that John Dutton wears and Beth and everybody, they sell them all. Schaefer Outdoors is the wardrobe consultant. Hewlett and Dunn, boot and clothing company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. through Christmas, 1 to 5 p.m. on Sundays. Look, Dave, that is a collection, a serious collection. I've got my friend that did taxes for a family every year, and the old man, the patriarch of the family, collected every single bottle of Cuddy Sark that he ever drank in the basement. And let's say that there were thousands of bottles of empty Cuddy Sark. Cuddy Sark is a Scotch whiskey. What is it?
That's not my thing. I got the bourbon. I got about 100 bottles of bourbon. Last week was the allocation day in Alabama where people sleep out. There one guy, he was 9th in line. I think he spent about $800 on his first 3 bottles of bourbon. He had like 26 bottles, so somewhere between about $3,000 to $4,000. I'm hopefully going to spend about $100 tonight on my bourbon lottery pick. Louisiana is a little bit more difficult to come across the allocation. In Alabama, it is government run, so it comes up a little bit more often. But I have some good bottles. I do need to stop. I need to stop buying these bottles.
We're going to talk amongst ourselves.
The allocations are coming out now. So we got an allocation lottery. There may be something here locally, and then I'm going to this. I'm going to the New Orleans Bowl. There may be something down there at Total Wine. And then I'm going to the Cajuns and Cowboys matchup. You got Bob Marlin versus Willie Wade. On Sunday, we may find something in Lake Charles. You never know. You know, a lot of places you can't buy alcohol on Sunday. Yeah, Louisiana is not one of those issues. So we'll find something out in Lake Charles as well.
Let me say that one of our listeners, the milkman, David Aquadro, just texted me and said Cuddy Sark is a Scotch. I thought it was, but he had over like 1,500 empty bottles in the basement there.
Well, see, he's got a different problem than I do. Mine are not empty. Mine are full. That's different.
These were dead soldiers. Matt Dean, you know, we're talking about this, and I think what's going to go, I think to me, what will attract investors, that's what they really are, boosters, fans, whatever. Matt, if you are able to show them, if you give X amount of dollars to this university, here's what we can do with it. And then you give them periodic progress updates, just like what I do in the private sector with wealth management. We do reviews. We do deconstruction analysis of their portfolios. Matt, wouldn't that be a cool thing to do when you talk to investors is what they're doing? Because there's 2 kinds of people in this world. There's takers, people that leave the dishes to soak for 3 or 4 days. Then there are people that wash them. There's investors. What do you think about my idea?
Well, you're always cutting edge. You're always cutting edge.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Let me just tell you this: like everything we do is project based. So I'll give you an example. We recently named Hilgeman Court. After our Hall of Fame basketball coach, Coach Hilgeman, who I worked for 10 years. So if you go in the Mallory Gymnasium, you're an alumni, and you played for Coach back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. I mean, it's totally a different feel. It pops. We're really excited. We're using that momentum in driving our basketball attendance. Was able to hire one of Tubby Smith's former assistants a few years ago, Zoe Goodson, as my basketball coach. Zoe has turned us around completely in 3 years. We won 18 games last year. We're driving for a conference championship, but it's all in conjunction off of our history. We had a tremendous history in men's basketball, and we had a little bit of a lull, and now we're back at it kind of through a facility and naming project renovation. So, you got to, going back to what John said earlier, you can't be apathetic. You got to have some out of the box thoughts, not just put a name on the floor. Can we transform the product so we bring in alumni? It pops and it looks totally different than when they played in that gymnasium. And then everybody does those type of things, right? I remember I've been to a handful of LSU football games, and, the excitement when Shaquille O'Neal comes back on campus, he's there maybe for the first 10 minutes of, the walkthrough or whatever, and everyone's just fired up. I mean, your history matters, especially if it's good history. It matters. And that's what we utilize sometimes when we get a lull and feel like we're apathetic in a certain area in regards to facilities.
And John and David, both of y'all, he just said it. Nothing succeeds like success. And when people see that you are committed and you're not just spending money to spend it, I think that's when the money comes in. Like, I can't go back to clients if I've just done a terrible job in my team of managing their wealth. You can't go back to them. You've got to show them, what are we doing, and justify what they're paying. And David and John, y'all know the Sunbelt schools are in the middle of the SEC footprint. So you're having to work harder, but I can tell you, you're doing it with a leaner staff. And I think there's going to be, going forward, people are going to start looking at colleges. They haven't been doing it like they've looked at federal. Look, the only reason we talk about Washington, D.C. is because how stupid they are and how incompetent they are. Do we want that public spotlight to be focused on athletic departments? And if it is, you better be running a tight, lean ship. And that money that's coming in, show what you're doing with it. John, what do you think? You're a CPA. I'm going to let you talk on this.
I'll let John answer that question, but somehow you're going to have to explain to your client spending money on that Ham's beer light. I don't know how you get away with it.
It was a gift, I might add.
That's an issue. Yeah, I'm sure that's what you tell everybody. Yeah.
It really was. Someone said, do you want this? I said, yeah. He goes, you really do? I go, yeah. He goes, a Ham's beer light? I go, it's the finest beer since 1865, born in the land of sky blue waters. But John, take over that thing about accountability.
Yeah, well, and since we're using the investor analogy, I'll take it one step further. You can say the Oregons, Alabamas, Georgias of the world are the blue chip stocks, or your S&P 500, or the Xerox and the Apple and people like that, the Delta Airlines. I'll say maybe that Lafayette and Monroe and our Sunbelt schools are more like Coinbase, and I'll use that as an example because I was not all in on the crypto, not to delve into my personal investments, but I was not all in on the crypto end of things. But I did invest in a little bit of Coinbase. That I think my basis is about $220 in. It went all the way down to about 35, and now it's back to about 125, 130. So it's climbing back up. But you've got those opportunities there. There are a lot of people who have gotten rich in the investment world and in the equities world, investing in things other than the blue chips. But you've got to be smart about how you do that. And I equate, the opportunities at Monroe or Lafayette or South Alabama as those type of investments. You've got to have a sound plan, leadership, the willingness to think outside the box, because you've got to be a little bit outside the box to make inroads in that area. And again, not become stagnant and satisfied with, oh, well, we don't have as much money as Alabama or Arkansas or the University of Texas. We can't be successful. That's BS. I mean, it starts with a mindset too, just like, Matt was talking about Missy Bilderback, our women's basketball coach. She comes in here. Her perspective is coming from 8 years at Jones Junior College in South Mississippi. She thought Fant Ewing auditorium here was magnificent. Needed some minor changes, but things that she's done, and she has taken that positivity and that mindset to our team. And I do have every expectation. We have the opportunity to go into Stegman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa on Sunday afternoon and beat Alabama in women's basketball. So a lot of it's about mindset, but I think it's, going about it the right way and understanding where you are in the pecking order and who you're really competing against.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, this is an interesting comment talking about funding, and I'm going to throw this at y'all. The Marine Corps receives less funding than any other branch of the U.S. military. Enough said. I mean, is there anybody in the world, if they heard 25,000 United States Marines are on the way to kick your ass? I mean, that's they do it with less. They do more with less than anybody. And David, and John, I'm being serious about this. Obviously, David covers University of Louisiana, but he knows the Sunbelt. Why doesn't the Sunbelt Conference hire someone like David Schultz and put him out there as the face of the league to promote these schools to investors? I mean, I'm serious. I'm not saying this.
I agree.
But we cannot do this show. John, you remember as a kid, and David, I don't know if you, but John, you and I were watching this. I can remember where I was. It was Thanksgiving night, 1971, when John Ott and the members of the Downtown Athletic Club opened up at halftime of the Georgia Tech game and said, let's announce the Heisman Trophy winner. We have one name here. And he opened it up. And he goes, Pat Sullivan, Auburn. I didn't know you spelled Auburn with an O, but Auburn. But, I just think about this. It's an entire group of people that you got to have to make this show work. And Sullivan's acceptance speech for the Heisman is still the greatest ever. He goes, and I'm sure there have been many people who deserve this honor much more than me, but I can assure you from the bottom of my heart, none will appreciate it more. Because every time you go out on that field, it's not just one person, it's an entire group. My coaches, my teammates, along the way, my parents, my teachers, my family, everybody's been a part of this. This is for all of y'all. I mean, think about that. And Matt and David and John, can you imagine if you had, the SEC network, as great as the SEC is starved for content. They have to show the same shows over and over and over during the middle of the day. I don't watch TV during the middle of the day. I'm too busy working. But if you go in, it's like my wife, Mildred, will tell me, wasn't that on like the same thing over and over and over? Why not have a Schultz out there? I call him the Sultan of the Sunbelt, but you've got to have people who are in your corner. And Matt, you know it. And John, you know it. But why not have, on whatever level they have to do it to promote the Sunbelt and have Dave talking to investors and people that say, because companies look for places to put money. Why not do something like that? Man, if you don't have somebody like every one of these schools that I go to, these guests that we have on the show, man, they're not the only ones at that school, but I go with the best ones.
Well, let me just take a stab at a different direction of what you're talking about when it relates to my world. Okay, so I've been in Division III, non-scholarship, highly selective academic institution for now 33 years, except for the 7 months I went to coach John's nephew at Denison, Charlie DeLacy, one of the finest student athletes I've coached in my 33-year career, 1,000-point score for the Big Red. But the only reason I had a chance to be successful is I knew the niche. It wasn't that I could convince you to come spend $30,000, $40,000 to be a student athlete for my program, right? It's that our faculty were some of the best in the country. If you came to Rhodes College and you got a degree, you were going to be successful in the game of life. I've got over 8 to 10 doctors, 8 to 10 lawyers out there I've coached. I can prove that. And then I use that year after year after year in my recruiting sales pitch. Hey, basketball is just going to be an element of your whole education, but your primary focus here is to get a tremendous education and change the world someday. It's no different than what you're talking about with the idea with Schultz. I mean, the reality of the situation is if you get in a situation where you don't have resources and you don't think out of the box, you're going to fail. So you have to have that mentality. It starts with leadership. Getting back to the whole utilizing facility space, you have to take a chance as a leader and hire staffing. The only way you can have 30 or 40 concerts a year, whatever, you can't do it with one facility director. I promise you. You got to take the chance and invest money to make money. It's no different than what you do, Rob, in athletic facilities.
Yeah. Scared man ain't never want to fight. Schultz.
So let's talk about this. I agree with you. And the way that media has changed, and we can get past the whole, these sports franchises don't need the media anymore because they have their own thing. But in the last 15 years, right, they have their in-house reporters, right? You have people who are working for the teams and putting out their media stuff. So that's a job now. That job did not,
Correct.
It was not invented until social media and the internet. This thing did not exist. I mean, even in 2000, right? I'm not sure we had in-house media when they just decided, well, why don't we just do it? All right. And I'll give you another example where maybe some of these places do, but most don't. All right. Because I'm fascinated by this. So I have all these bottles of bourbon. There's a whole thing on YouTube. It's called Whiskey Tube, where these people just sit there and taste. They either taste bourbon and tell you what they think, or they go out and search for it. I'm not kidding. This
I love
guy. He's in Auburn. He has 500,000 subscribers. All right. And he generally won't badmouth any of the distilleries. He'll tell you what he likes and what he doesn't like, but he won't badmouth them. And so why would, a Sazerac or Buffalo Trace hire somebody when they can just send out a few bottles, all right, and get it reviewed by people that have, a combined 2 million subscribers, right? Yeah. So they don't have to do it. Whereas sometimes, it would be nice. The Sunbelt used to have a reporter, and now she works for Georgia Southern. So you could bring somebody in there in-house and do that and send them travel-wise to the different schools. And that would be a good investment. But you do have to be careful on how you do that and if it's necessary. And if you're going to get, to be honest with you, a return on the investment if you do it properly, right?
Yeah. So, John, I love what Schultz just said. There are three things you've got to have to be successful. I love it's responsibility, authority, and accountability. Talk about those three in your role. We got a few minutes left as AD at ULM because, again, you're running a tighter ship. You don't have the resources that LSU has or Florida State or whatever. But when people look at you and they go, here's this guy, he has less, you can do more with less if you get the right people in there. You've got 17 sports programs. If I didn't know you, I would just call you coach because you're like the father of the athletic department.
Yeah, well, I think, and it's no different in an athletic department or the corporate world or, any aspect of business. Alignment is so key. And when you talk about authority and responsibility, a lot of that is look at the organizational chart. Look at it, and it's more than just about the piece of paper and the organizational chart. It's about the people that are in there. And I will tell you this, and I have had many colleagues, many peers who are extremely talented athletic directors whose careers have either been derailed or impeded on the negative side or facilitated on the positive side about their relationship with the president or the chancellor of the institution. If you don't have the alignment and the understanding with the president of your institution and your board of trustees in the direction of your program and how you're going to run it and be given the authority as an athletic director, I don't care how talented you are, it's going to be hard to succeed. And I'll give you just a snapshot of our coaching search. Our president, I went to him, had a plan, said, Dr. Berry, I know in the past at this institution, hirings of coaches have been done by committee, but quite frankly, in today's world and in the volatility and the changing environment, how many coaching searches there are out there? This is, I want the opportunity for this to be my search. I come to you with one or two people. I'll keep you involved in the whole thing, but I need to have the autonomy to be able to go and do this. And I feel like I've been here long enough and I've been in this business long enough is I know not only who the most qualified, but who the best fit for us is. And he could have said, no, we're going to do it by committee, John. This needs to be a process. And I would have had to go with that. But I was fortunate enough to work for somebody who said, hey, John, this is what I'm paying you for. This is a significant part of your job. Go do it. And I was able to do it. And that's why we were able to complete a search in a timely and efficient manner.
There you go. I mean, and look, we all know about being on a board of directors. I will never forget the first time I saw it because I saw it a ton after that. Fort Benning, when I was a TV reporter, Ranger Battalion, they'd have a meeting. You know those big wooden, round, circular spoiled things that they put cable on, that you see that are round, and you turn them upside down, they make a great table. The battalion commander would come in there with the cadre, with the platoon leaders and all. There'd be 5 people around the little circle. They'd be standing. It took them less than 5 minutes in the meeting. They would say, here's the mission, this is the objective, and this is what's going to happen. Any questions? Lieutenant, sir, we can have air support. Negative, sir. Thank you. 5 minutes or less, you're done. You go to a board meeting or a committee, and let's have a meeting about the meeting. You've got a bunch of people sharing a seat with their ass. And it's exactly why that search was done quickly. It's because you have in your mind a hell of a lot of memory deposited in the savings account. You've got real experience, and I love that. Matt, close us out. We just got a couple of minutes left. And Schultz, before we leave, let people know again how they can keep up with you. But Matt, respond to that about what John just said. I think it's solid gold.
100%. We've talked about this before. John, when I was in your shoes for a few years, I always try to create a short list in anticipation of either a really good coach leaving, or if the situation was stagnant and it went badly, what direction was I going to turn? So when I went to my direct report, I said, I have A, B, and C here. Can you give me the authority to go contact and get this done? And if you have that leadership above you in your direct report, in John's case, it's the president, it's crucial. And I'm sure when John was looking at that job, the leadership of the president was very influential in John taking that job. I could be wrong, but it's just one of those things that no AD is going to be successful without the support of the leadership pattern, which is usually the president of the college. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Schultz, let them know how they can follow you and everybody, because you're putting out great work, and we cannot. Every time you're on here, I'm learning something new. Looks like Syracuse has got a good future ahead of them, but let people know how they can follow the Schultz cast.
Yeah, just follow me. You can follow it at YouTube, Locked On Sunbelt, wherever you get your audio podcast. Search Locked On Sunbelt. I'm at Schultz cast on the Twitterverse, and I don't know about you guys, but I am not at Rob's pay grade. Board of director meetings. How many board of director meetings have you sat on? I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I'm just talking about people that are in.
Who do you think I am?
No, I'm just saying I don't go to those meetings, but I know I've been to board meetings for things, and you got a lot of people come there for the free meal and the check, and they contribute nothing other than that. John, let them know how they can follow you.
I'd be happy to come for the free meal and the check. You want to invite me to a board of directors? I won't even say a word. I'll let everybody else do the talking. I'll take the money and the food. I got no issues with that.
Hey, David, how do you think he got that free Hams beer neon sign? Come on.
That's exactly right. Well put, John. Well put.
Yeah. Yeah. So John _Hartwell on Twitter, ULMWarhawks.com website, anything and everything Warhawks sports. Huge weekend for us. This weekend, we got Lamar and men's basketball on the road tonight. As we mentioned earlier, women's basketball at Alabama on Sunday afternoon. Hey, don't count the Warhawks out of that one. Missy Bilderback's got it going on. Almost 30 guys on campus this weekend for official visits. A lot of transfers, some JUCO kids, a couple of others. So looking to this weekend as a big impact opportunity for Coach Bryant Vincent and our new football staff. Also, I'll throw out one teaser here. Look for in the next day or two the announcement of our staff. I'll just say this, the folks in Louisiana will be surprised and say, wow, the Warhawks are stepping up their game from an assistant coaching standpoint and a recruiting standpoint as it relates to our home state of Louisiana.
What you need to do. And Matt, let them know how they can keep up with you. Great stuff from everybody. I love it. At Dino Hoops 44, I believe that was one of my former numbers back in the day. www.roadslinks.com. Our men's basketball team's at home this weekend. Play Saturday at 1, Monday at 1. If you're bored, Rob, in town, come on over. I don't know where you're going to be this weekend, but our men's basketball team's 1-0 in league play, 4-4 overall. Had a really brutal non-conference schedule, but things are starting to go our way. Our women are 3-3, and our women's basketball program, which I had the fortunate
being part of 3 straight conference championships in our league play back 11 years ago. We've won 7 out of 11 conferences, and we're going for 8 out of 12.
Love it. Hey, man, great show. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless America. Go out and do something great. I appreciate everybody listening and watching, and our sponsors. We'll see you tomorrow.